It's Father's Day, and we wanted to have a couple of dads come up here and talk a little bit about fatherhood and how we say this a lot around here. We say that the gospel transforms our heart, our home, and our neighborhoods. And one of the parts of a gospel transformed home is that obviously our homes, our marriages, our parenting, all of those relationships in our homes are transformed by the good news of Jesus as well. And so that plays out in a lot of practical ways in fatherhood. And I know one of the things that we do is we want to share with you. I mean, we got Pastor Dan's a great dad, Pastor Jonathan's a great dad, but this church family is full of great dads and great people who are followers of Jesus, and we want them to come and share a little bit about how Jesus has transformed their hearts and their homes, and some practical tips on how to be great dads. And so we want to preface this by saying that we are aware that not everybody a lot of people don't have fathers, or they don't have a great relationship with their father. And anytime we talk about Father's Day or we talk about God the Father, it doesn't elicit the same reaction that some other people who had a great father in their home. And we're not trying to, we're trying to paint the picture of the picture of what God has for best case for human flourishing, and that's two parents in the home. But we're not saying, we realize that sometimes gets disrupted. But we want you to know that we love you, we care about you, and we're glad you're part of this church family. And we're not setting. If you're like me, I sit in the seat sometimes. I'm like, and I listen to someone like Ryan and Derek, and I'm like, man, I really suck as a dad, right? We don't want you to feel like that. We want you to feel inspired, and that you see that Jesus does transform us, and that there's hope for every situation. There's hope for us to be better dads than we are. And so this is Ryan, and that's Derek, and oh yes, well, good Lord, a smattering of applause, yes. So let's start by giving us an idea of why you're up here talking about fatherhood, and give us an idea of like your family life and what it looks like, and what does the home look like in Team Davis and Team Weber's home?
Yeah, for us, it's kind of a big transition, brand new to fatherhood. My wife and I have a soon-to-be 5-month-old, so a lot of changes with our schedule and energy levels and midnight feedings and all of that, but we kind of got married later in life, and we're always just kind of wondering if parenthood would be in our future, and kind of dealt with a miscarriage. And then, we're blessed to have our first child, a daughter. And so it's been awesome. It's been overwhelming and sometimes stressful, but just everything about it has been great. And I love, being prompted with questions and topics like these, because in busyness and in major changes in life, you can forget to take a step back and see how is God working in my life? Where am I bearing fruit? And I was kind of dwelling on the passage that says that God is transforming us into Christ's image from one degree of glory to the next, incremental. And sometimes in the busyness, it's so often easy to forget that. And so for me as a husband, I think the big thing is just being encouraging and supportive and affirming to my wife in general, but as a new mom, but living out freedom as a forgiven, accepted, redeemed follower of Christ. I think the big thing for me that wasn't present in my life growing up is just the consistent act of confession of my sin, receiving forgiveness, and just repentance, that ongoing process, and modeling that freedom in Christ for my wife and for our daughter as she, grows up and develops and comes to know what that is like. And how it translates to just being a new dad. Obviously, being there and supportive in the feeding and the changing and the midnight runs, but I grew up in a broken home where affection and support and stuff like that wasn't really modeled well. So for me, it was important, and it is important, to be engaged in the moment, to be present, to be affectionate with my daughter, to get out of my comfort zone and make the funny, goofy noises and facial expressions.
You're the one in the back row all service long, yeah.
And then at a broader context, serving in the church, like showing up every week and being a part of the church family and finding my role and not just attending, but serving. And that has increased and grown and changed from something simple like setting up communion by myself in the back room to being a little bit more open and engaging, being a door greeter to being a part of the board, and then, teaching and facilitating baptism classes. And then with Derek and Andrew Peebles leading, we're part of a fight club, and that just further develops relationships, allows you to, as guys, strive to be in awe of God and who he is. Like, just find your joy, fill up your cup, do that together, but then learn practically how is that lived out in the complexities of life. And so I think all of those things, those ways, model gospel transformation for me.
Nice. You might have heard him say he's in a fight club. Now, if you're not familiar with that terminology around here, there's not like literally a fight club like the movie Fight Club. If it was, he looks like he'd be winning those, right? Because he's got no marks. Yeah, it's the beard. It's all hidden underneath the beard. But it's just something we in North Central call like groups of 2 or 3 people who get together and they're fighting for and with each other for their faith. And so that's what he means by fight club. So we don't want to pass by and think that we've got a secret underground basement fight club that's going on. Although Derek may let us know because he's a former Marine, or he is a Marine, right? So maybe that's something we start up. But thanks Ryan. Derek, just a little picture of what's life like in your home. What does your family look like, and then how has Jesus transformed that?
Yeah. So unlike Ryan, I am not a new dad. I have 5 kids spanning from 2 to 18. So it's been an exciting ride over the last 18 years, to say the least. There's some joyful moments, some sad moments, some strenuous and challenging moments. But nonetheless, I love them more than anything I can ever explain. As Ryan said, the joy of just learning together the gospel with my kids and seeing the expressions, the smiles. It's enough for me to just continue doing it each and every day. Just seeing the smile. I mean, it's hard to explain. If you've got kids, you'd understand, I'm sure. And coming from the Marine Corps, without Jesus showing me how I should be as a father, I wouldn't be who I am today. I mean, leaving the Marine Corps, I was, I felt hard, I felt angry, I felt depressed, a lot of anxiety, and I mean, to say the least, I was headed down a long and narrow road, and it wasn't a good one, and I was leading my family right down that same path. So the gospel has shown me how to be a godly husband and a father, and it continues to show me how to lead, love with gentleness, dignity, confidence, and one of the most important things, forgiveness. The Bible says that a man is called to be a servant leader. I was far from that. It was to take responsibility for my wife, my children, and put their needs ahead of my own. Again, my needs were top priority. My kids came next, and then, unfortunately, my wife always came after that. But thanks to the gospel, I continue to live out day to day, showing that I'm a father and a husband who now demonstrates selfless and sacrificial love towards all of them. And it's a lot of them to go around. So I've got to divvy it up where it is. I won't ever be perfect at it. Nobody is ever going to be perfect at it. But that's what gives me the fire inside to just, continue to try to be, for my family. So.
Nice. Yeah. What's harder, Marine Corps boot camp or being a dad? Yeah. Okay, so what are some practical tips? I mean, a lot of differences in, different experience in your fatherhood journey, but what are some tips that you can give us that have helped kind of shaped you into be a great father, a good father, a mediocre father at times, that it kind of incrementally gets better? Or what, when you think of it, what are some of the practical things you can share with us?
I think the big one, which has been echoed like in our CTC group, and again, if you don't know what that is, it's a midweek group over Zoom where we discuss the Sunday sermon with questions, and it's just a great way to continue to grow in the Word and have fellowship kind of remotely. We started that during COVID, but one of the participants, when talking about their childhood, said, it wasn't the big moments like that truly stick out. Yes, like it's great, and you should be a part of your kids' lives when they're learning to drive. Who knows, in 20 years that might not even be a thing anymore, but their breakups, their graduations, their own marriages when they have kids. Those are all great and important and big milestones, and you should be there for those. But it's like Paul Tripp says, like life is often lived in the mundane. So it's those day-to-day little things, just being there for your kids, spending time with them, listening to them, like earning their trust so that you can speak truth to them, I think is huge. Like I didn't have my dad a part of my life, and there were times he would pop in, and it was like, you haven't earned the right to be here and to kind of counsel and teach me. So, just those little things, like riding bikes with them, playing catch, like all those little things add up, and they're going to remember that 20 years down the line. So I would say that, and I would say also that it can be really easy, whatever stage in life, to put other things first, whether it's your career advancement, your sports teams, your hobbies, like retirement, whatever it is. We all have a thing that can replace, what God has called us to as dads. And I would just encourage you, and it's a good reminder for myself now and in the future, to really like keep the first things first. And I'm also kind of speaking out of not a veteran dad, but as a 40-year-old man who didn't have a dad. And so just those little day in, day out, you're consistent, you're supportive, you love them, is going to represent Jesus to them, throughout your days and weeks and years.
That's good.
Yeah, so this is something I could go on forever and ever and ever about. I've learned a lot of cool little tips and tricks as being a dad for 18 years. But I kind of narrowed it down to 5 of the most important to me. And then, obviously, if there's any dads out there new dads that just want to go out for coffee sometime and just kind of chat, learn some things, I can even learn some things. I'm always available. But the first one I put is let them see you loving your wife. Treating her with kindness and respect. Don't be shy. They're sponges. They're learning from your every move. And as dads, we set a visual example of how a woman should be treated. You won't be perfect, but in the times you're not, let them see you in that you're humble and that you apologize. There should be no doubt in their minds, and they should be treated. There should be no doubt in their minds how they should be treated if they're girls, or how they should treat a woman when they're married, just by you setting an example. I always like to think of it as those are somebody's little girls. Number 2, create a relationship with them. Like I said, I have 5 kids, so each one of them is different, and I learned that a long time ago. So find what they love, and then just continue to water it. The more you water it and encourage them in it, the better they're going to be as they get older. And they'll do a lot with it, knowing you're interested and on their side. Number 3, I'd say, would be never be too prideful to apologize for your wrongdoings. Not just to, a family member or to, one of your friends, but also to them. I find myself in a position sometimes where I'm like, no, I'm older than you. I'm wiser than you. I don't need to apologize to you, but that's wrong. I'm in the wrong a lot, and I'm not too prideful to stop and say I'm sorry. They need to see that you make mistakes also, and you're not going to be perfect your whole life. Number 4, it's one of my favorite things to do. It's something I grew up doing, and that's always eat dinner, always eat meals together. It gives your kids perfect time, perfect chance to, get out things that maybe they have on their mind, what they have going on, what they want to do. It's also a good time for us fathers who are always on the move, always working, to really stay involved. And then the last and most important, I think, is show them how much Jesus means to you, and just continuously show your love. I think that's the most important thing. If you continue to show them that love that they have will only grow.
That's good, yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you've been a parent, specifically if you've been a father, it's I think the kind of like summarize, it's like it's a grind, right? It never ends, and the best dads are present. It's both quality time and the quantity of time and the regular, and it takes a high level of intentionality, which is very difficult to do these days because there's a lot of things that can distract us: our careers, our phones, our friends, whatever it may be, and so. We are grateful that that you're here sharing this stuff. We're grateful that you're part of our church family, guys, and we're also more and more grateful that we have a God who transforms our lives and transforms our hearts and transforms our homes. And like you said, Ryan, I mean, you came from a home where you didn't have a father figure there regularly, and so, but now the power of Jesus has shown up and transformed your life, and now your daughter is going to grow up with a dad in the home. And again, we in this church believe that God puts us in environments that help shape us and become more like Him. And those environments really are kind of relational. And you get married, and suddenly you're like, okay, well, I realize I'm a pretty selfish person once I get married because there's another human being in my life. And then it's like you get it figured out. Then you have kids, and you're like, uh-oh, I'm even more selfish than I even thought, right? Then you put another kid in there, and you're like, oh, okay, now. And then you just have a third kid. And you're like, oh, I'm on a whirlwind, right? And all it is, it's God is shaping our hearts to worship and glorify Him more and to be more like Him. And so we think that God has created a design that helps that contributes to that end and also to contribute to our own human flourishing. And that is, generally speaking, it is a mom and a dad in a home, and that we're teaching our kids about Jesus, and Jesus at the center of that home. We recognize that that's not the case for everybody, but we believe that as the gospel transforms our heart, that we are going to create environments, whether we are in a 2-parent home, a 1-parent home, or whatever it looks like. You have your legal guardians over some kids that they're not your actual biological kids. Whatever it is, we believe that the gospel can transform our home, and that we can point people's hearts to Jesus, point our kids' hearts to Jesus, and we can create these environments where God is glorified and we're shaped to be more like Him. So thank you and it's hard, it's not easy, and that's why we have a church family who is full of people like this. I learned how to be a dad by just hanging around with the dads in this church. I became a dad when I was 37 years old, so I was a little bit late to the game, but I learned how to be a good dad I'm assuming I'm a good dad. I learned to be an okay dad. Don't ask my kids. It's Father's Day. They have to say I'm a good dad. Right, but you learn by being around people. We also read a lot of books, and we like to equip you to be good fathers. But really, it's being around people who have gone through that and realizing we don't have. These guys just said they don't have it all figured out. We're never going to have it all figured out, and we're on this journey together. So maybe if you're new here and you're newly connected to North Central Church, that's the invitation: is to get connected to people who are on a journey in parenting, fatherhood, whatever that looks like. So, can you say thank you to these gentlemen for coming and sharing their lives?